Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's November 2021, Thanksgiving week, and we have a special edition of Business and Life Stories. Our guest this week is Carrie V. We're super excited that you're here, Carrie.
Thank you.
Carrie is the author of The Radical Empowerment Method, a book which you should absolutely read. Also, if you're into public speaking, look up her Toastmasters speeches. There are some of them out there, which is how I found her. I learned a lot about public speaking. And she also does a podcast called Coffee and Tea with Carrie V. And the most recent episode of that is something we wanted to ask about.
Okay.
Which was when, why, and how do you ask for help? And how is that okay? And how do you get over your own brain lock about asking for help? So welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Happy to meet you both. I loved, before we pushed record and hearing your stories and talking, I'm just like, I just want to follow both of you for the rest of my life now. I'm hooked. Thank you.
So Mike, that was a fantastic first question. And I think that's a great question to come from a man, isn't it?
I think so. I believe so. I was speaking with Mike before you came on, James, that my husband and I are planning a trip in April. We're leaving just after Easter, and we're going to drive from New York across the country to Washington State, all the way down the California coast, over to Route 66, up Route 66, and now taking some time in Texas because Mike has told me where I need to go in Texas. And I already know there will be times where I say, why don't we stop and ask for directions? And my husband will say, no, we'll just find it. Because that's the way it always is. Always. Like, just stop and ask for directions. Of course, you know, we have the Jeepus now. So that helps some, but it helps to talk to people who live in the area and say, hey, what's a great local eatery? You know, the GPS can only tell you so much. I don't want to eat at all the chains. I want to eat at the local places. I want to see the real world, not New York transplanted elsewhere. You know what I mean? And I know that he won't want to stop and ask for help or directions because you know, he wants to conquer the trip. Where I like to ask people for directions. But when it came to this break in my arm, I broke the humerus bone right under the head of the shoulder. So they can't cast it. It's just the sling that I'm wearing kind of it's more of a straight jacket, and it keeps everything super tight. So I cannot move it so that I can avoid surgery in my arm. And it has forced me to have to ask for help because I can't even cut steak on my plate. I can't get a shirt on by myself. I need help getting the actual sling on. It's just, I'm totally dependent on other people right now. And learning to ask for help it's been a challenge because I am very independent. I will ask people where the local eateries are, but when it comes to asking help carrying something or getting my headphones on, I mean, think about trying to get headphones on with one hand. It's just not very easy, you know?
I'm practicing.
Yeah. I did get a pair on the other day, but it was a very convoluted way to get them on. And it would have been much quicker if my husband had been here and I could have said, could you help me get my headphones on? And it is everything. Getting a coat on, getting in the car, putting a seatbelt on. It's everything. And I really had to get real with myself that it was okay to ask for help. So we were away when this happened. We were visiting my aunt in Georgia. So we're 16 hours away from home. First day of a 2-week vacation visiting family that this accident happened. And it was 2 weeks of being, so not even in my own environment, having to ask for help, learning to ask for help, and learning that it was okay to ask for help. And it's why I did that podcast episode. As soon as I came home, I grabbed the mic, put the headphones on, and recorded the episode because I want people to understand, men and women, that asking for help is a sign of strength. If I continued to try to do everything on my own, I probably could figure it out. I probably would injure my arm more. It would take me 10 times longer to do these things, where if I ask for help, then it gets done quicker. And And what I'm finding out about my strong, independent husband is that he absolutely freaking loves helping me. He loves being needed and he loves to give the help. And if I didn't ask for it, I'm stealing joy from him. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who's willing to ask for help and gives him the satisfaction and the joy of helping his wife who is in need right now. And he knows I would do the same for him. And it's been a joy learning this lesson, just hands-on, being forced into it and learning it.
So how would you coach somebody? Because you're a premier coach. You're a famous, well-known coach, business coach. How would you coach someone how to do this? Like, I know James and I, our personalities, we love to help people. We hold doors open for people. We just, whatever we can do.
And I love that.
But many people don't want to accept anything.
Yes.
So how do you coach people like us on how do you actually go about offering to help someone in a way that they'll accept it?
Yeah, it is learning how to, first of all, getting real with yourself and doing the exercises. I have a lot of journaling prompts that I give to people. I believe in the power of writing, because when you write, when you grab an empty journal, an empty page, and you grab a pen and you let your brain lead the pen instead of your pen leading the brain, you let your brain lead the pen. It's amazing what is hidden in the depths of your soul. There's so we live in a world where we live on the superficial. And when we can get deep into ourselves, we can find out what is truly, really there. And the truth is, we really do love to give help to others and we love to receive it. But we are taught from the time we are young, especially men, are taught that it's weak. If you ask for help, you're not strong. And it is a lie, because the opposite is true. Asking for help proves your strength. You are willing to admit that you don't know everything is a strength, because nobody does. And so when I'm coaching someone, we start there. We start with our own emotions and how we are feeling. And I will ask them, how do you feel asking for help? And the number one answer I get is, it makes me feel weak. It makes me feel vulnerable. It makes me feel like I'm not the person that I'm supposed to be. And then we work past that. And then there are times where you will ask someone for help and they turn you down, or they'll say, "What, are you stupid? Or what, are you too weak to do this?" We learn to accept that rejection and to know that we asked the wrong person. We asked the wrong person because they have not done their own self work to be able to offer the help. And so we work through that. How do you accept that rejection? And how do you learn who to ask for help? How do you know who to ask for help? Most of us want to help others. There are some people who have a wall up. And you can recognize the signs when you start working on that, of who to ask for help and who not to. And there will be times that you're rejected, and it's okay. Rejection is okay. Anybody who's ever done sales knows that rejection is okay. It's actually a good thing. You grow. You grow through rejection if you allow that in. So we start working on ourselves. When we want to ask for help, we work on ourselves first, and then we can reach out and ask someone else.
I'm really glad you brought that up about the sales angle, because James and I have certainly experienced that. And one of the things we learned to do when someone would reject us was to either ask for, what can we do better?
Yes.
In the sense of, we're not trying to force a sell, but how was our presentation? What would you do differently? What would you recommend? How could we, those kinds of questions. People love to give free advice.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's the best thing in the world. People love to talk about themselves, which is good. You can't get to know someone if they don't talk about themselves, and they're not going to talk about themselves really if you don't ask them questions. When I love that you brought that up. My Uber rating is like the best rating. Uber drivers love me. They say I'm a great conversationalist. I don't do anything but ask them questions about them. I just keep asking them questions. And then by the time I get to my destination, I know the name of their dog and their wife and where they lived before they came to where they're living and how long they've been driving for Uber and what their most traumatic ride was and their best customer was. They think I'm this great conversationalist, but all I do is ask them to talk about themselves. That's all I do. And I really do want to know. It's not a game to me. I really do want to know people. I want to know what makes them tick. It makes me happy.
You know, that was the best piece of sales advice I ever got, which came from James.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm not sure what questions to ask. And he said, ask the ones that you're genuinely curious about, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the ones that you really want to know, because then the follow-up's supernatural.
Yeah, people want to be seen and heard and loved. I mean, they just want to know they matter. They want to know they matter.
It's really interesting thing, sort of the concept of asking for help. It's like kind of, I guess what shaped humans like 100,000 years ago was from a psychological pattern aspect was survival, status, and sex, and those were important for a tribe's survival. And I guess I've approached it from the male perspective, and obviously we as humans haven't really changed a great deal in that 100,000 years.
Yeah,
our environment has changed dramatically and is continuing. I mean, what have we seen within the last couple of years? But and that can still be seen: status, survival, and sex. And I think what's really interesting is that I'm not sure whether asking for help was ever patterned into that, was ever kind of programmed in.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely from a male perspective, I mean, is not asking for help and nature or nurture. I think that's a really, really interesting thing. But obviously with the environment changing, there are these sort of devastating statistics about white male, and I'm not being racist here, but from my understanding, male suicide, it's one of the highest rates up to the age of 40. And then we're seeing it in teens and whatnot now, which is absolutely traumatic. But,
Yes.
but it kind of stems back to not being able to ask for help, because as you and I know, it's just the first step. It's the first step to ask someone out for a coffee, the first step to buy a pair of trainers, to go for a walk, the first step for just having a conversation and asking for help. It's a very important conversation to have. Like, how do I ask for help? Because I think it's conversation within families now, but it certainly wasn't a conversation within my family when I was just a whippersnapper, sort of 40 years ago, 35 years ago. So isn't it? It's so important, though, isn't it? Because we're seeing the effects of what men my age are doing now, but we're now seeing it in teenagers, which means that asking for help, I guess, is still not installed within society, right?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that it is not it is not instilled in us at all to ask for help. And many of us grow up with the a very clear understanding that we are not to ask for help. Just go do it. Just go do it. Just go get it done. And the thing is, what I learned going through, I worked in corporate America for years, and I saw everyone around me being so afraid to ask for help because they were afraid of losing their jobs if they admitted they didn't know how to do something. And how can you know how to do everything? You can't. We all have different gifts and we all have different strengths. And when I was doing management, general manager of companies, I loved it if an employee came to me and said, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And one woman came in, a young woman, and I still am in touch with her decades later. She is such an amazing, fabulous woman. She just grew into this person that I could see who she could be. And she was so afraid to take a chance and so afraid to ask for help. And I gave her an assignment one time of researching something online, which to me is nothing. I just do it. But somebody taught me. I wasn't born knowing how to use the internet. Wasn't even a thing when I was in school, when I was in grade school and high school, none of the way through school. My brother, my senior year of high school, got the first computer that we had in our house. And it was this big old thing with an amber screen that printed out on paper with holes on the side that went when it came through, right? And we thought we were the cat's meow. We were the first people on the block, right? That's what we had growing up. So I just assumed when I gave her this assignment, because of her age, that she knew how to do it. And I went up to her desk a couple hours later, and she was sitting there sobbing because she didn't know what I meant by, can you research this online? She didn't know what I meant. And so I sat down next to her and I asked her what was wrong. And through tears, she told me, and I said, just come and ask me. I'm not a monster. Just ask me what I meant. Ask me for clarification. Ask me for help. I sat her down and showed her how to do it. This woman researches everything now. She has turned into she just learned that it was okay to ask for help. She wasn't going to get fired to ask for help. And I said, if you're ever in a situation where you ask for help and they fire you, then run away from them. You don't want to work there. You don't want to work where asking for help is looked down upon. I think we need to learn that.
That's such a brilliant thought, too.
Ask for help.
It is really interesting because obviously back in the kind of the earlier days of society, there's a saying, isn't there, that it takes a village to raise a child, and obviously children would learn in a more of a kind of a communal setting, and they'd be raised by uncles and sort of a wider family kind of setup. And then obviously with the industrialization of a society a couple hundred years ago, and then schools were developed and education, so both parents could go off to work, etc. And I suppose, and I've certainly noticed that in New Zealand, even today, within the male population in certainly the rural areas and smaller towns, it's like harden up, she'll be right. Like it's still that pioneer kind of like, we'll figure it out. And it's detrimental because again, the suicide rates within rural population, I believe, is bigger than in urban because of it's that mentality. Like these people just can't cope with not being with the issues going on, and they're trying to. And this farm's probably been handed down from generation to generation, and etc. But what wasn't handed down was it's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
But I've seen many times out here in the rural part of Texas where once you get to know your neighbors a little bit, everybody helps everybody. And there's still that element of you only ask for help that you really need.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's something you darn well know how to do it, everybody expects you to go do it because they know you know how. So how do you coach your clients? Particularly I'm thinking like business owners and people that are under a lot of pressure, and managers. It's like, you're right. Any organization, James and I've said this on the show a gazillion times, any organization that either yells at people for making mistakes or makes it a crime to ask for help and instruction is an organization you don't want to be involved in.
No.
So there's a lot of other companies that don't fall in that category. How do you teach people to do this? And I mean, that's a huge leap for some folks to take.
It is. And many of my clients who come to me at first are working in situations like that. That is who I attract, because that's where I was working towards the end of my corporate life. It was in a position where asking for help was frowned upon. Just do it. If you don't know how to do it, figure it out, but don't ask for help. And it's very demeaning. You come home feeling defeated all the time, because you know inside that if someone would just take 5 minutes to explain it to you, you could do it. You could do it. And so I attract people who are in that situation. They want out. They want out. And I never tell people, okay, just quit and go. Just unless you're being physically or severely emotionally abused. We work through all of those emotions while they're either building their own business or looking for work elsewhere. And so I help them to work through the emotions of, why is it wrong to ask for help? And we work through the emotions of, yes, it is okay. This is not a you problem. This is a them problem. And helping them understand that they're not a failure. And it is not wrong to be asking for that help, but also helping them get out of that situation. Because I don't think it's healthy emotionally for anyone to stay in that situation, because then they end up believing that that's true, that it's wrong to ask for help. And Mike, you brought up a very interesting thing. If you know how to do it, you better darn well do it. When I'm working with someone, I always tell them, I want you to try, and I want you to keep specific notes of what you don't know how to do. And then that we can work on together. And then you get to help somebody else. That's how it works. You don't learn how to do it and hold it all inside. You get to teach it to somebody else. And when you're going through a tough time, take notes, because I guarantee you somebody is going to come across your path that's going through the same thing that you went through. And now you can help them, because now you know. That's life. That's the beauty of how it's supposed to work. It does take a village. It takes all of us learning together and teaching each other, and not being afraid to ask for that help, but also not being afraid to give the help. There are a lot of organizations where somebody wants to help somebody else, and then they get in trouble for offering the help that they know they can give to get this person to another level. Because a lot of organizations are afraid of people to really grow, because they're afraid they'll then be after their job. It's all this, it's such a cutthroat thing, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's plenty.
Doesn't have to be. There's so much fear.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, as James will tell the whole world, that in his polite English way that he does, but I'm sort of an outlying data point on the flowchart of life. I'm an oddball. I never managed people that way my entire career. I figure if I teach somebody how to do something and they like it and they're good at it and they get good at it, I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I can go focus on other things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never embraced the fear of letting somebody grow.
Yeah. That's not normal, though, unfortunately.
I think what's really interesting is you brought up a great point there, and I've just been thinking about it. So on the one side of the coin, we have those who would like to ask for help, and they're feeling vulnerable about it, showing signs of weakness, etc. And interestingly, on a side note, the great business coach John Mattone talks about how vulnerability is really a superpower, is a great strength. But then, having listened to you just now, I was thinking, well, what's the flip side of that coin? Is why don't people want to give help? It's like, so one side of the coin is, well, I don't want to ask for help, and then the flip side is that people don't want to give help, and they build walls, or they're short with people, or they point blank refuse, and I think you might just touch on it. It's the insecurity, isn't it? It was like I once read this comment about Darius Masters, and the sign of a good master is someone who not only wants to teach a student to be great, but they actually want to teach a student to become better than what they are.
Yes. Yeah. It's so oh, I love that. It's so true. And when I have someone graduate from one of my group coaching programs or my high level coaching and they say, I've re-signed a couple of times, but I'm ready to move on. And they're almost afraid to tell me. And I'm like, are you kidding? This is exactly what I want. I want you to graduate. In fact, I want you to go out and be better than me. That's what I really want, because then I know I have done what I was created to do. I'm doing what I love doing. And when you go out on your own, it's like you don't want your kids to stay 2 months old for their whole lives. You want them to grow up and move out and make us a career and be successful. You want to see them. I just think every good parent wants their kids to be better than they were. Then you did a great job raising your kids. And it's the same with your employees or who you're coaching or your friends. It's the same. When you can reach down and help somebody climb the ladder and they get to surpass you, that's true success. And it comes with being willing to give that help and ask for the help. It all starts with the help. That's what it starts with.
I'm in the humbling position now, so I've got 2 teenage children, and we all love outdoor sort of stuff, outdoor pursuits and whatnot. And I guess every parent who is active themselves and has active children comes to the same point. It's humbling when your children can run faster than you, and they can ski better, and they can play soccer better, and play cricket better, and swim better, and it's just go, okay, it's just time to step back. Like, my job's done in that capacity.
Yes.
I don't feel the need to compete now, but I'll just be a dad in another capacity until they supersede me there, and then I'll shift across a bit and support them in another area. But,
exactly.
It's
exactly right. Yeah. The world is a great big place. It's a huge place. And when we sit in our little bubble and we have this idea in there that somehow life is about competing with everybody around us, and it's just not. It's just not a competition. There's a whole world out there, and not everyone will want to work with me, and that's okay, because there's other people. And I have had people come to me and I say, I think I am not the coach for you, but I do know someone who really fits with you. And I have clients that were given to me by other coaches, or referred to me, I'll say, by other coaches, and because they felt we were a better emotional fit. It's not a competition. It's about this having this abundant mindset that the world is a huge place. If someone says no to you, it's okay. You just created space for the right person to say yes. That's all.
I think it's first so that collaboration is really the way forward, instead of competition.
Yes.
And I mean, obviously there's a place for competition, but I think the mindset of collaboration, particularly in the business world, I think that's a really powerful and reframe. Because I mean, I don't know what you found, but asking for help itself and giving help, either side of that coin, it can take us to a different place as well, can't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And how do you, I mean, I guess your journey as a coach, how has your journey been helping people, and how has that changed you as a person and a coach? Because obviously, I guess the greatest teachers and the greatest coaches are those that are open to insights from the learnings and the challenges which their students present them, right?
Yes. Yes, that's exactly true. And so you're asking me how has it changed me?
Yeah. How do you see that your growth as a coach from people asking you for help and then you offering help as well?
Yeah, how'd you get to be so awesome? That's the question.
Mike's just done it Texas blunt way, and I just did the English mumbling way. There we go.
He speaks real English.
I'll say not everybody thinks I'm awesome, for sure. I mean, it's it's life. Not everybody likes everybody, and that's okay. It's it's why there's 1,000 flavors of ice cream, right? My mother-in-law will always insist on buying pistachio and butter pecan ice cream, and I'm like, no, and I say no thank you every time. And she finally said, she's Italian. She came from Italy when she was 26. My husband was 8 when they came to the US. And so she has a very strong accent. She goes, why you never say yes to the ice cream? And I'm like, because I don't like those flavors. She goes, but those are the best. I mean, she just can't understand. How can you not like these? And I'm like, it's not chocolate. I don't want it, And and so anyway, I got off the point.
Yeah.
How has it helped me? I am so much more compassionate now because I understand on a much deeper level how hard and vulnerable it is for many people to ask for help. And so a lot of time when I'm coaching someone, I will ask questions where I can actually offer help before they ask for it, because the questions will bring around what they're really struggling with. And then as I'm helping them, they feel more free than to, I'll get a Voxer message from someone who says, I was thinking this, and what do you think about this? They become more and more and more free with asking questions and asking for help when I offer it in the beginning before they ask. It's made me more intuitive when I work with someone to work one-on-one. And it's why all of my programs are a minimum of 6 months, because I don't have a month program or a 2-month program, because we can get deep enough in that short amount of time. I need to get to know you. If we're really going to make a shift in your life, I really need to get to know you. And that takes time. It doesn't happen just in 2 seconds. But it has made me much more compassionate and intuitive.
And that's such an important part, right? Particularly from the coaching perspective, that most people will not tell you their greatest pain, their greatest issue within the first 40 minutes.
No.
And depending on the stories surrounding that, you're absolutely right. It can take multiple sessions for them to loosen up a bit, and or them to emotionally kind of feel a bit kind of more relaxed, and so, as they say, that the layers of the onion can gradually fall away.
Yeah, and I truly do love my clients, and I tell them that, not on the first call. But it is who I am. And I actually had one client tell me, that triggers me. People don't truly love me. And I worked with her for quite a while. And then at the end of the contract, I did not re-sign her because we just could not mesh. Because I need to be able to tell you, to tell my clients, and I work mainly with women, and I will end every call with, hey, I love you and I'm rooting for you. If that triggers someone, it's very hard for me to be able to work with them, because that's who I am. And when I say it, I mean it. And I don't say it lightly. And not being able to accept that goes more to a counselor level. And that is not, and I'm not a trained counselor. I'm not a trained counselor. I am a coach. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I'm a podcast host. I'm not a counselor. And I won't allow those lines to blur, because I don't want to hurt someone. And a counselor is a very different way of approaching things. And I don't want to bring hurt. The last thing I would ever want to do is hurt someone by trying to cross a line that I'm not qualified to cross.
I think and I've forgotten the Latin word for education, edu something, but education means coming from within. And when I was a coach, I saw it that was really my role, to find out what was within. Whereas I think you're absolutely right. Like counselors, there's kind of systems or things with which, whereas we're just I mean, what do you see your role as a coach? I mean, I used to see it just to bring forth from within,
Mhm.
be it that confidence or the blossoming, without going into the deep recesses, which I certainly wasn't trained for, and most coaches aren't.
Yes. I always tell people I'm your biggest fan, and I mean it. I end my podcast with, "Hey, I am your biggest fan. You work with me, you're never going to have someone who's going to be a bigger fan than me. I will guarantee it. I am in your corner." I am very, very good at pulling out of people what they truly want to be doing. I want everyone in my mind, the perfect world is where everyone wakes up and they're doing what they love every day, not dragging themselves to do something they hate because someone else in their life told them that that's what they should be doing. That's how I lived most of my life. I want everyone to wake up every day and do what they love doing. If it's working on Wall Street, love it with all your heart. If it is working on spreadsheets and managing businesses, do it with all your heart. And if it is making cards and working with crafting companies, do it with all your heart. If it is being a homemaker, do it with all your heart. That is my job as a coach, is helping you figure out what is that thing I really want to do. Most of us are so confused because we're told all our lives what we should be doing, or you're told from the time you're little, hey, you're going to take over the family business. What if you hate the family business? What if you don't want to take over the family business? I mean, that's my specialty, is really pulling out of you what you truly want to do and then helping you do it. And that's asking for help. And sometimes someone wants to do something that I am not an expert in, and then I'm asking for help. I'm bringing in another coach and interviewing and introducing them and saying, okay, I have done my job, but the rest of the journey is out of my wheelhouse. Now we're going to go here. That's how we all grow. That it's a constant motion. I do events with I started working with a business coach who is now my very best friend in the world. And we do events together. And she knows she brings a very masculine energy, and I bring a very feminine, very high energy to a room. And the combination is magical. We do very small events, 6 to 8 women. We bring them together in, like, the last one was in a bed and breakfast in Covington, Georgia. And we spent 3 days on a business and spa retreat where they left with a business plan, but they also got to have their hair done and get a photo shoot and go axe throwing and paint pictures. And it was amazing. I had to go virtually because I broke my arm in Georgia and couldn't show up in person. But the whole thing is, I will work with someone and get them to a certain level and then say, okay, now we need to go here. And we have another friend who's a coach, and he comes in and he brings another whole aspect in. And it's beautiful when we bring it all in together, because none of us has all of the gifts in one package. It takes a village, it takes all of us together.
That's such a beautiful way to express the business competition is good. If we're competing against another business on terms of how we provide service and all
Yes.
those sorts of things, that's good. That makes both businesses better.
Yeah.
Competing on arrogance, attitude, I'm going to crush you, is not good.
No.
And I just love the way you pull that in. It's like, there is nothing, I mean, we do it in our business. We encourage all of our clients to do it. It's a beautiful thing when you can grab another coach, as you said, or another programmer or another manager or whatever you need. Yes. Walk alongside them for whatever time period that needs to happen. And then you have a good relationship that you can work together again later.
Yes.
I really love the way you put that.
Thank you. It's been a journey to learn that. But think about, I'm a bookworm. So my husband one time said, honey, you're going to have to get rid of some books. The bookshelves are overcrowded. And I was like, no, we just need more bookshelves. I'm not getting rid of my books. But think about how many, I love to study nutrition. It fascinates me. I love it. And I have so many books on nutrition. There is not one book that covers everything I wanted to know. It took all of them. And every time I get a new one, or business books, and yes, my books are all alphabetized by subject matter and author. Yes, they are. And because I want to be able to go and grab them out. My spices are alphabetized too. It's just who I am. But when I go to my bookshelves that are literally all over my office, they're all full of different authors. I was just speaking with a person that I collaborate with business this today. We meet every single week, and we were talking about all these different people that we love to plug into, Brendan Bouchard and Darren Hardy and Shalene Johnson, and all these people bring a different aspect in to what we're learning. And the one thing that drives us crazy is when people will say, this is the only person I listen to. That's a cult. That's not learning. That's becoming cultish. Learning means expanding. If I'm going to read a book, I'm going to read a book that is opposing too. If I read a book on the ketogenic way of eating, I'm going to read one on plant-based eating, and then I'm going to read one I'm just going to read them all and make my own decision, because I get to make my own decisions because I'm me, and you get to make your own decisions because you're you. And it's okay if we don't agree. It's so okay if we don't agree, because that's why there's so many flavors of ice cream, because we get to choose what we want. And a lot of people they just don't grasp that.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't grasp that for sure.
No. Yeah.
And I also think that maybe people don't feel confident enough to embrace that too.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
What everyone thinks the last couple of years, I think it highlights the fact that we have the opportunity to research and make informed decisions.
Yes.
Whether or not that's the official narrative, an alternative narrative, that doesn't really matter. But I think what for me has really become so important moving forward is having the confidence to make having the confidence to go out and inform ourselves.
Yes.
And not just take everything for granted. And if our information coincides with what we've been listening to or watching, that's absolutely fine. And if it doesn't, that's fine as well. So that's the first part, I feel. And then the second part is then to have the courage to take action on after informing ourselves. And that might be to go back to what we were thinking anyway, or it might be to strike off in a different direction. But yeah, informed decision making is it's kind of asking for help, in a sense of asking for our own help, because we need help to decide what flavor ice cream or like what business coach or
yes.
So
and the beauty of all that, it naturally leads us into a way of thinking that is not based on judging our decisions based on results.
Mm-hmm.
But specific to nutrition, if I'm trying to get to a certain body fat percentage, and I've read all of Carrie's books, however huge that bookshelf is, and I make changes in my diet and it doesn't get the result I want, it doesn't mean they were bad changes.
Right.
It means I need to go look at the information again and figure out, well, maybe my body chemistry is different, or maybe there's something different with the input parameters.
Yes.
So that the idea of learning a bunch of stuff and then applying and coming to our own decision doesn't lock us into thinking, well, it was a bad decision. It locks us into, I've got to try it a different way.
Exactly.
So important in business. If you want your business to survive for long, you have to be able to think in those kinds of terms.
Yes. Yes. And I love that you brought that up. I love that, because when you base your life on results, it just leads you, it's a slippery slope. And sometimes it's really hard to climb back out of that. It's the best business advice. Someone asked me this recently, what's the best business advice you ever got? It was a reporter. I subscribed to this thing called Harrow, and it's help a reporter out. And so I get multiple emails every day, and I love answering them. It's just, you never know who's going to publish you. The last one I did was for the Associated Press, and it was just so fun. All I did was share my opinion. It was great. And so one of them was, what's the best piece of business advice you ever got? And I can't remember the publication, but they actually highlighted it because it was so different from everything they got. And the best piece of business advice I ever got was from my first business coach, who I still work with and now do events with years later. And it was after working together for a while, and I was just getting so frustrated all the time, like, why isn't this growing the way I want it to grow? And I'm doing all the things. And one day she said, you're too intense. You don't allow yourself to have any fun. Start creating fun. Have fun every day. If it's not fun to you, it's not going to grow. You have a good time. Take time to have a good time. And she taught me the value of bringing laughter in every single day and having a load of fun with what I'm doing, making everything fun. She said, Carrie, if it's not fun, why are you doing it? If you're not having a good time, why are you doing it? You have become the boss you hated working for. You have become that. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm paying you to speak to me like this. But it was the best advice I ever got.
That's classic.
Yeah. I became the boss I hated. And I was bossing myself, working insane hours, having dinner, rushing back downstairs to my office is in the basement, which sounds like, what are you in the basement? But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful space and it's all mine. And I would rush down here every night, work till 10 o'clock, go up, help my mom get ready for bed. And I was like, I moved her in here so she wouldn't be lonely. I moved her 3.5 hours north in with us so she wouldn't be lonely. And I'm leaving. And it hit me. And when I started to create fun in our lives, in our, not just my business life, but our whole lives, everything changed. The world opened up. It made everything easier to ask for help, easier to do my job. The business started to grow. And then those things I really don't like doing, I got to outsource. I got to hire an online business manager who, I got to hire a bookkeeper. I got to hire people to do all the things I didn't want to do. It took time to get there, and that was okay. I learned so much, but the number one thing I learned was that getting up and busting a move or throwing the hula hoop on or running upstairs and checking on my mom and just sitting down and working on a puzzle for 15 minutes created an atmosphere of growth. And I don't even know why I brought that up, but there it is.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you.
James, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to actually have to love you and leave you both as my children have just returned from school.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
Oh, bring them on camera, man.
It was an absolute pleasure, and I've so enjoyed today.
I have too.
Such an important topic, like a great topic. I'm sure I'm right in saying, Mike, that we haven't covered that with any of our other guests. So it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And we always like to go deep, as you probably heard. So it's been really, really enlightening, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you both. It's been amazing. I appreciate it.
Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our audience, Carrie? I'll have the links below the video to your podcast, website, books, and so on.
Thank you. I would say what we just talked about last is create the fun in your life. Having fun. A lot of people think that we need to have success and then we can have time for fun. And we have it flipped. Creating that fun actually leads to the success in your life. And I want to help people understand that, to take the time for the fun. My mother ended up passing away in May. She was diagnosed with cancer and she died in my arms 19 days later in May. And I am so thankful for all those fun memories I have with her. It's just, when I look back, if my business coach had never said that to me, I would be sitting here with the regret of, what if I had spent more time with my mom? What if I had spent more time with my husband? What if? And instead I can say, we had such a great time taking her on vacations and taking her to get her hair done every week and her nails done every 2 weeks. And all those little pockets of fun is what created success. So hang on to that and create the fun in your life. It's more important than we realize.
Wow, thank you for that. Okay,
Thank-
people, that was Carrie V. And as you know, we'll do our best to get her back on this show soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.